Hello, I'm Joel Daring with the International Volleyball Hall of Fame. We are speaking one-on-one today with members of the induction class for 2014. This is Volleyball in Perspective. I'm joined by Miloslav Ejem of the Czech Republic. Welcome, Mila.
Thank you.
You are being inducted as a leader in volleyball, having contributed as a player, coach, referee, teacher, researcher, author, and administrator. You served as a leader within the FIVB for over 3 decades, and you've passed on technical knowledge to countless participants and coaches in our sport. You achieved success as a player in the Czechoslovak Youth Championship, then coached various men's and women's teams, including some time in Finland and Iran. You then began your distinguished career as an administrator and leader, serving as a member and later chairman of the Methodology and Scientific Committee of the Czechoslovak Volleyball Federation from 1960 to 82 and 1984 and 1992, and then chairman and member of their administrative board from 1973 to 1982. During nearly 30 years on the FIVB Coaches Commission, you served as both commission president and secretary, and since 1970, you lectured in more than 70 countries around the world for the FIVB, IOC, and the Olympic Solidarity Program. So let's go back and start at the beginning. How did you first get involved in volleyball?
Before I start to answer that, I just get blushing after hearing these words about
Well, it's an
myself.
amazing,
Sorry,
it's an amazing
I'm a little
career.
touched. Okay. I started very simply how any other person from my country. I would say, war child. And during the war, World War II, there were sport organization, only those organized by German. I didn't enter. But later on, after the war, I became a member of so-called Sokol, which is, translation is Falcon. You perhaps has it here in USA also, organization. And in my case, this one branch in my city or in my place organizes not only calisthenics, which was the basic activity of that organization, but also sports. So I started to play basketball and I started to play volleyball when I was about 12, 13, 14 years of age.
So tell us about your early time playing and getting and developing as a player and some of the best experiences you had as a player.
You know, we were, that part of the Prague was a kind of, I would say, source producing relatively good players. So I must say, for me, it was big competition, but also good models to follow, because we had champions of Republic of that time, and so I tried to be the, and also we had a competitions of schools in the district, and so I succeeded to won with my school a Czechoslovak competition, I don't know, 1952 or 53, something like that, playing with some guys that afterwards happened to be top Czech players. But already in 1953, listen, I cannot, recently a colleague of mine said me that I'm 60 years involved. That's a long time. So in '53, I made first coaches course for myself. I coached my team and played for, and the course that time was the same for referee. So at the same time, I was refereeing competitions in the city of Prague.
So when you were very young, so at that, let's start when you were beginning to play. Did you always have in mind that you would have a career in sport, or did you have other things in mind for a career?
Not really from the beginning. Originally, I thought to do career in nuclear physics. And then in Czech Republic, they founded the Institute for Physical Education and Sport. And because of different reasons, I decided to go there. I never forget in my life this, I would say, those scientific feelings,
Yes.
maybe. And this was what I did in my later work in the sports science. But I graduated from that school. Also, I was a university champion that time with that school team, that university team. This Institute of Physical Education became later on, we called it faculty, but of Charles University. But this is, in your terminology, perhaps School of Physical Education.
Sure.
Faculty is a little different in American English, as far as I know. So when I graduated from that school, I had to go to military service, 2 years. But during this, I coached a military team and played for. And then I immediately afterwards I enter the staff of chair of the sport games at school where I graduated from, and so followed my the other career. I understood I won't be the best player, but I understood I could be the good coach, or maybe good scientist, as you say, something like that.
So what I'm hearing is, even while you were still playing, you were starting to coach at a young age, and you did a lot of coaching. Where did the passion come from to spend so many years as a coach? I know you had other things too, but just the coaching part.
I don't know. It's a kind of special feeling. You want to develop your players. You want to check your knowledge in coaching, whether your way to do it is good or not. I was, I don't want to make myself so nice or so good, but I was the one who introduced weightlifting training for volleyball players in Czech Republic, because I've learned that should be those days. It's like 63, 62. It's far from the usual way how to work in volleyball.
Do you have one particular highlight from all the years you coached, a particular season, a particular team that achieved a great success?
Yeah, I would say two. One was when we succeeded to progress from the level 2 competition to a level 1 competition with my women's team, which was mostly university student team. Difficult because you know, sports university players, they had courses for bicycling, courses for skating, or so they were not ready for a certain periods of time in preparation. So it was the first. And second, when I coached two teams of Iran, Persia, and in 1970, we were in the Asian Olympics, both teams on the 4th place, which was really success those days. So, and you know, when I came there, they didn't want to block because they wanted to make a big kill, big crash the ball, you know. So they were some things I have to, and also, so this could be the highlights of my coaching career.
Well, you started to tell us about some work you did as a pioneer, and other people call you a pioneer, so you don't have to call yourself that. Other people have recognized the contributions you've made, but while you were serving on the Methodology and Scientific Committee, what were some of the things you were working on?
You know, a few things. It was a question of how to teach volleyball. And it's one, but also how to perform a training of the advanced or even top players. So this was very important. Then the other part was how to evaluate, observe, and objectively measure performance, or maybe presupposition for performance. So some kind of testing, some kind of objective game performance evaluation. So these were my my topics, I would say, which I tried to implement into the work of coaches and scientific committee. And I also tried that these directions were used by other university lecturers or say sport coaches, things, those who worked with in other places than only like me in the sport university in Prague.
So we can see that early interest in the scientific process. You put that to work in sport, and then you went on to become involved with the FIVB officially. How did you first get involved with them?
This might be a little ridiculous story. 1966, there was a World Championship in Prague. And next to this championship, we organized symposium for coaches. And a colleague of mine from university, in his presentation, he recommended to FIVB to organize coaches commission. It was older colleague, yeah, so nothing happened. And this idea was overtaken by that time East German Democratic Republic representative Horst Baki. And he succeeded to organize this commission, something in 1969. And I was 70 to 72 in Iran. When I came back, I started to organize international coaches courses, as a matter of fact, I started to prepare yet before I left for Iran. But it was for me, from many points of view, I would say, chance for life to go to Iran to coach. So I left the work not done, but colleagues of mine did this. But it was not official course, which was done in 1969 in Czech Republic. No, 70 summer. So when I did 3 or 4 or organized like a main person courses in Czech Republic, Horst Bake offered me the place in the coaches commission. 1978, I was in the Congress in Rome, but Czech Republic wanted me to be a member of, that time FIVB had 2 types of commissions. Commissions that were elected, that supposed to be more serious, and the commissions for experts. And I was nominated to the Sport Organizing Commission to substitute a person which was there from Czech Republic before. But already at that time there were some behind the scene dealings, and the place originally for a Czechoslovak representative was given to one guy from one of the Arab countries. And so Horst Bake made this or organized, so I went to Coaches Commission, and this was a start of my work in FIVB in this field of the work.
Well, for any volleyball coach who watches this and they think about what we have today in the middle of a match with the statistics available to us and the computer video and the statistics linked immediately after match, we know we have someone like you to thank for that. So you've seen and been part of a lot of changes in the sport. So I guess I would ask you kind of a 2-part question as we begin to wrap up. What were maybe 1 or 2 most significant changes you saw and maybe you were part of, and what do you think is ahead for the sport of volleyball?
You mean from that point of view of coaches' work?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyhow, coach can have all the data, but his feeling, his subjective viewpoint, his observation of players is very important. Mostly the statistics is just to confirm that my feeling is correct. It's not a question of post-match analysis, but this is a question of analysis during the match when I'm looking at and looking what's going on. So, I don't know, statistic is, all of this is big step forward and have extreme help of the coaches, but more for after the match evaluation, more for preparation for the next match, not so much for direct coaching in the match, because there you must be the part of that atmosphere of all of this there, and this is perhaps, and I think perhaps always will be a question of subjective opinion which arise within the seconds. You don't have time to decide. You have to immediately answer, by some reaction,
Sure.
whatever the reaction is.
And what do you think, is there one big change ahead that you have in mind for the sport of volleyball? There's been so many changes in how the game is played and the rules. Is there one more thing you have in mind that needs to happen in the sport of volleyball for a change?
Myself?
Yes.
I don't know. For me, the greatest change was the introduction of rally point system. This is nowadays, volleyball of nowadays is different. This is not the same volleyball like it was years ago or before this change. This is quite different volleyball. And I don't know, I never was, I would say, prophet of that time that I would predict something to do. I always try to utilize or use what was that for the good of my team, for the good of working of the coaches, etc., something like that. So if it is enough to you or the answer that.
Well, it's a fascinating insight into the contributions you made over so many years with a serious study of the game. And I think that's the very reason that you are here today, because you're recognized as a leader who for so many decades attempted to advance this sport in many levels.
Thank you.
So we have a final question.
Yeah, okay.
How do you feel about being inducted into the International Volleyball Hall of Fame?
I'm very, very much honored. I almost didn't come here because I had a very difficult situation in my family recently, and so I almost not to come. But to be inducted, it's maybe highest point in my.
Oh, it's great. I think we can understand, the high point of your career, and I think I speak for all who are here welcoming you here, that we congratulate you on your tremendous honor, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
We've been speaking with International Volleyball Hall of Fame Class of 2014 honoree Miloslav Ejem. This is Volleyball in Perspective, and I'm your host, Joel Daring. Thank you for watching.